वरो कृपा कैले कृष्ण अधा मेरा प्रति की लागिय नीले हैं तो करो ए बेगति আছে কিছু কাজ তব এই অনুমানে নাহে কেন আনিবে না এই উগ্রস্থানে रजस्तम गुणे एरा सबायाच्छन्न वासुदेव कथा रुचि नहे से प्रसन्न तबे यदि तब कृपा होए आहै तुके सकली संभव होय तुमी से कौतुके कि भावे भुजले तार बुझे से रस एता कृपा करो प्रभु करे निज वश तुम्हारा इच्छाया सभा होए माया बस तुम्हारा इच्छाया नाश मयूर परश तब इच्छा है यदि तादेर उद्धार बुझिबे निश्चय तबे कथा से तोमारा भगवतेर कथा से तो कब अवतार धीर हय सुने यदि काने बराबर भगवतेर कथा से तब अवतार धीर हय सुने यदि काने बराबर शृण्वतां स्वगता कृष्ण पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनः हृदयन्तस्थो हि अभद्राणि विदुनोति सहृत्सतां नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवतसेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्ठिके तदा रजस्तमो भावा कामलोभादयश्च ये चेत एतैरनाविद्धं स्थितं सत्त्वे प्रसीदति एवं प्रसन्नमनसो भगवद्भक्तियोगतः भगवत्तत्त्वविज्ञानं मुक्तसङ्गस्य जायते भिद्यते हृदयग्रन्थिश्चित्यन्ते सर्वसंशयः क्षीयन्ते चास्य कर्माणि दृष्ट एवात्मनीश्वरे रजस्तमोहते तबे पाइबे निस्तरा हृदयेर अभद्र सते गुक्षिप्तहरम् रजस्तमोहते भवे पाइबे निस्तरा हृदयेर अभद्र सते गुक्षिप्तहरम् रजस्तमोहते तबे पाइबे निस्तरा हृदयेरभद्र सते गुक्षिप्तहरा रजस्तमोहते तबे पाइबे निस्तरा हृदयेरभद्र सते गुक्षिप्तहरा कि करे बुझाबो कथा वरसे चाहे क्षुद्र आमे दिना है न कोनो शक्ति नहे कि करे बुझाबे कथा वरसे चाहे क्षुद्र आमे दिना है न कोनो शक्ति नहे अथ छाएन छे प्रभु कथा बोली बारे जे तो मारे छा प्रभु करो ये बारे अथ छाएन छे प्रभु कथा बोली बारे तो मारा इच्छा प्रभु करो ये अखिल जगत गुरु वचन से अमा अलंकृत कोरिबार क्षमता तोमारा अखिल जगत गुरु वचन से अमा अलंकृता कोरिबार क्षमता तोमारा तव कृपा हले मोर कथा शुद्ध हबे शुनिया सबर शोक दुख जे घुचिबे तव कृपा हले मोर कथा शुद्ध हबे शुनिया सबर शोक दुख जे घुचिबे आनेया छो यदि प्रभु हमारे नाचते नाचावो नाचावो प्रभु नाचावो से मते आनेया छो यदि प्रभु हमारे नाचते नाचावो नाचावो प्रभु काष्ठेरा पुथले जाता नाचावो से मथे नाचावो नाचावो प्रभु नाचावो से मते काष्ठेरा पुथले जाता नाचावो से मते नाचावो नाचावो प्रभु नाचावो से मते भक्ति नाई वेदनाई नामे खूब दरो भक्ति वेदांत नाम एबे सत करो भक्ति नाई वेदनाई नामे खूब Bhaktivedanta Nama Bhakti Nai Vedanai Name Kubhodara Bhaktivedanta Nama Ebe Satakoro. Boro kripa kaile Krishna adha mera gati. Boro kripa kaile Krishna adha mera prati. Kila giya nile heta koro ebe gati. Boro kripa kaile Krishna adha mera prati. Kila giya nile Boro kripa kaile Krishna adha mera prati. Kila giya nile heta koro ebe gati. Boro kripa kaile Krishna adha mera prati. Kila giya nile heta koro ebe gati. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Quickly read the translation. First. The words of Srimad Bhagavatam are your incarnation, and if a sober person repeatedly receives it with submissive oral reception, then he will be able to understand your message. It is said in Srimad Bhagavatam 1:17-21. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is the Paramatma, super soul in everyone's heart, and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, cleanses desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee, who has developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering of service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome to the heart is almost completely destroyed. and loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, is established as an irrevocable fact. As soon as irrevocable loving service is established in the heart, the effects of nature's modes of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire, and hankering, disappear from the heart. Then the devotee is established in goodness and he becomes completely happy. Thus, established in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the man whose mind has been enlivened by contact with devotional service to the Lord gains positive scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. Thus, the knot in the heart is pierced and all misgivings are cut to pieces. The chain of fruitive actions is terminated when one sees the self as master. He will become liberated from the influence of the modes of ignorance and passion, and thus all inauspicious things accumulated in the core of the heart will disappear. How will I make them understand this message of Krishna consciousness? I am very unfortunate, unqualified, and most fallen. Therefore, I am seeking your benediction so that I can convince them, for I am powerless to do so on my own. Somehow or other, O Lord, you have brought me here to speak about you. Now, my Lord, it's up to you to make me a success or failure as you like. O spiritual master of all the worlds, I can simply repeat your message, so if you like, you can make my power of speaking suitable for their understanding. Only by your causeless mercy will my words become pure. I am sure that when this transcendental message penetrates their hearts, they will certainly feel engladdened and thus become liberated from all unhappy conditions of life. O Lord, I am just like a puppet in your hands, so if you have brought me here to dance, then make me dance, make me dance. O Lord, make me dance as you like. I have no devotion, nor do I have knowledge, but I have strong faith in the holy name of Krishna. I have been designated as Bhaktivedanta, and now if you like, you can fulfill the real purport of Bhaktivedanta. Srila Prabhupada ki. It's a very beautiful song. Prabhupada wrote only 2 bhajans. So one is this. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Gnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Sri Guru Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sakrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam Satvaitam Savadhutam Parijanasahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakhanvitamscha Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nitinamine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Garatvise Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, wish you all happy Ekadashi. So today we will be discussing as usual on the Ekadashi from Srila Prabhupada Lilamrta, volume 1, entitled as A Lifetime in Preparation. The title of the chapter is An Unknown Friend, page number 157. During 1949, Abhay wrote articles in Bengali and submitted them to his godbrother B.P. Keshav Maharaj, who published them in his Gaudiya Patrika. Abhay's format for addressing the world problems was the same as his spiritual masters. Even at the first meeting in 1922, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had countered Abhay's nationalistic arguments by stressing that the real crisis in the world was neither social nor political nor anything material, but was simply the death of transcendental knowledge. Abhay simply elaborated on this theme. He never advocated that the ordinary concerns of the world be disregarded, but he stressed that crisis can be solved only when the leadership is God conscious. If Krishna consciousness were put first, other concerns could be brought into line, but without Krishna consciousness, so-called solutions were only folly. Hare Krishna. So, in 1949, that means just after the independence, so he was Abhay, still he was Abhay, Prabhupada was. So he was writing articles and he was sending these articles to his god brother B.P. Keshava Maharaj. And he was publishing that in the Gaudiya Patrika magazine, newspaper. So in 1922, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, when he met Prabhupada for the first time, Jai Shri Shri Radha Madhav ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Shri Jagannath Baladev Subhadra Maharani ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. So when he met Srila Prabhupada for the first time, what did he say? What did Prabhupada said and what did Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said? You are an educated man, why don't you preach this message of Bhagavad Gita in the Western world? Then what Prabhupada said? We are still a dependent country, right? So Prabhupada was giving a political answer, social political. And then what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said? Huh? These are very, we can remove this, it will be difficult to load also. It will pinch. So, yeah, what did Prabhupada said? Yeah, what did Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said? Yeah, it doesn't depend on the political situation. So, the same thing Prabhupada was carrying in all his magazines, all his articles, that how irrespective of the material situation, Krishna consciousness applies in all the cases. Now you can see even after independence, people were thinking that if we get independence, then our problems are solved. India will become like Vaikuntha only. Heaven, no problems. But as soon as independence came, first thing happened is India got divided. Pakistan, Hindustan. Then after that also there are a lot of, so many problems, social problems, casteism, Still, even though India got independence, but do you think that, Indians are happy? No. So, trying to solve the material situation can never make a person happy. And that's what Prabhupada, in all his articles, in magazines, he was stressing the same thing, that if the leader of the country is God conscious, then there won't be any problems. But without God consciousness, without Krishna consciousness, so-called solutions were only folly. Folly means it is futile, failure. Abhay began his first Bengali article by quoting an editorial from the Allahabad edition of the Calcutta newspaper Amrit Bazaar. The editor had sorely lamented that India's worst troubles had not yet ended despite national independence. The National Week has begun. The memories of Jallianwala Bagh and political serfdom no longer trouble us. When Britishers were ruling, these things happened. Jallianwala Bagh, so many hundreds of people were killed. People were not given freedom to speak, freedom to do, express the Indian culture. People were arrested. So, but that is no longer a problem in 1949 now. But our trouble is far from being at an end. In the dispensation of providence, mankind cannot have any rest. Dispensation of providence means without God, mankind cannot have any rest. There is one saying, no God, no peace. No God, no peace. KNOW, no God. Then KNOW, no peace. NO, no God. Then no peace. If one kind of trouble goes, another quickly follows. India, politically free, is faced with difficulties no less serious than those that troubled as under a foreign rule. Abhay seized on this editorial reflection as proof of the basic defect of all worldly plans for amelioration. He pointed out that although India had been subjugated by foreign rulers since the time of Muhammad Ghori, India prior to that had never been subjugated. In those days, India had been a God-conscious nation. It was when India's leaders had abandoned their spiritual heritage that India had fallen. So before Muhammad Ghori in 1050, India was not attacked. That was the first time. And India also never attacked any country, because India was a God-conscious nation. But when India started falling down, when India started being attacked, when its spiritual heritage, when India abandoned its spiritual heritage. Thus, Indians should see that they were now being punished by the stringent laws of material nature. The Honorable Editor of Amrit Bazar Patrika, Abhay noted, has written so sadly, if one trouble goes, another quickly follows. But that was stated in the Bhagavad Gita a long time previously. Where it was stated? Dukhalayam ashashvatam. It is temporary, it is full of misery. In Bhagavatam also it is there, padam padam yat vipadam natesham. This world is, every step there is a danger. Every step there is a danger. It was the same theme he had stated in his 1944 Back to Godhead articles, and the theme of so many of his letters also. Man, due to his neglect of the Supreme Lord, is being punished by material nature, which is directly controlled by the Supreme Lord. Men may write newspaper articles, pass measures at meetings and conferences, and attempt to overcome nature by scientific research, yet they will remain unable to surmount nature's laws. We can see in the recent past, every 2 years there is one pandemic, a global disease coming up. There was SARS, there was, during Prabhupada time there was, it comes in the Lilamrta, yellow fever, and recently there was COVID, and within that there are variants. So scientists are trying to develop the vaccine, but again, after 2 years you will find another disease coming up. Why? What is the reason? The reason is because man is exploiting the nature. Man is living against the principles of God. He is eating what he is not supposed to eat, what is forbidden. He is doing what he is not supposed to do. So therefore, the Mother Nature, when it sees that so much sin is being committed, so then the reaction comes. She can't tolerate that. And the reaction comes in this form of pandemics, earthquakes, tsunamis. As they try to escape their punishments, the Supreme Lord will cast them deeper into the illusion and they will fail miserably. Abhay quoted an appropriate Bengali saying, I was trying to make a statue of Shiva, but I ended up making a monkey. This was over last time? I think it was over. Anyways, in order to rid the world of misery and bring about happiness, we have now created the atomic bomb, seeing the all-pervading destruction which could take place in the near future by atomic reactions. Western thinkers have become greatly disturbed. People try to give consolation, saying that we will use this atomic energy to bring about happiness in the world. This is also another enigma of the illusory potency. See, when you have weapon, when you have bomb, at some time or other you have to use it. A bomb or the weapon, it will inspire you to use it someday or other. No? The problem Abhay explained was that the world was lacking Krishna conscious devotees. Leaders under the influence of material nature could never solve the problems of the world. Materialistic illusion was especially prevalent in the Western countries, which Indians should not try to imitate. Abhay prophesied, however, that Krishna consciousness would one day reach the West. In the Western countries, there has never been any discussion of the relation between atomic individual soul and the supreme, complete conscious personality of Godhead. Neither their activities nor their state in ultimate perfection he has been investigated. That is why even though they have made so much material advancement, they are squirming in the burning poison of sensualism. We can be absolutely certain that India's real peace formula will one day reach their ears. So Western countries had reached to the summit of material advancement. What we are having now, the Western world was having 30 years before only. Prabhupada said, India is 30 years behind, or Western countries are 30 years ahead in technology. But what do you see there? Gunshots. In the school there are gunshots. So there is no surety for life. 15 people died. Such a big country, such a technological country, there is no security. Security, there gunmen are there, security are there, but how the gunshots are happening? India, you see thousands of people walking, but nothing happens. But America, few people, gunshots. Abhay's articles began appearing regularly in the Gaudiya Patrika. His god brothers appreciated his writings. His denunciation of the materialistic mentality was reminiscent of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's. In Abhay's hands, the Bhagavad Gita's concept of the Asura, demon, was no longer merely a depiction of a mythological or legendary enemy. The Asuras had come to life in the modern day Hitler, Churchill, or even an Indian Prime Minister. But Abhay pointed out his denunciation of the misleaders was not his own, he was only repeating the words of Krishna. During 1950-51, he continued his letter writing, attempting to gain a hearing with various organizations and leaders. He wrote the World Pacifist Committee, the President of India, and the Minister of Education. He wrote to the Indian Congress for Cultural Freedom, which wrote back suggesting that Abhay had written them by mistake. He wrote to an official of the All Religions Conference in Bombay, advising that because of their approach, nothing practical would come out of their conference. The practical solution is lying in the transcendental message of Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, as given by him in the Bhagavad Gita. On September 14, 1951, he corresponded with Daniel Bailey on the American Reporter, a magazine published by the American Embassy in New Delhi. Abhay pointed out that the philosophy of understanding the absolute truth, as realized by the sages of India, was higher than attempts to combine East and West. We can read from here. In Allahabad, Abhay managed to save money. I think we read all these things in the last class. Come down. In Allahabad, the next section. You got it? In Allahabad, Abhay managed to save enough money to revive the printing of Back to Godhead. And in February 1952, from his editorial office and home at 57B Canning Road, the first issue in 8 years appeared. As before, he did everything himself, all the writing, typing, editing, meeting with the printer, and finally distributing the copies by hand as well as mailing them to respectable leaders throughout India. This, he felt, was the real purpose of living in Allahabad or anywhere. This was the best use of money, the purpose of human life, to engage fully in glorifying the Supreme Lord. Other things were temporary and would soon be lost. So, Srila Prabhupada, Abhay was in Allahabad, 1952. He again started, because for some time it was stopped, and again he revived the printing of Back to Godhead magazine because he got enough money to print. So then he was thinking, this is actually the goal of life. What is the goal of life? Is that the best use, whatever money he has, the purpose of human life is to engage fully in glorifying the Supreme Lord. Generally, at that age of 56 years, what someone would be doing? Either he is still working to get money, or must have retired and thinking my job is done and taking rest at home. But we can see Prabhupada that what he is doing, he is doing a missionary work to preach the message of Lord Krishna. Other things were temporary and would soon be lost. When he visited his family in Calcutta, old friends would gather in his room and he would preach and give classes on Bhagavad Gita. Abhay invited his wife and family to take part in these discussions, but they would resolutely sit in an upstairs room, often taking tea, as if in defiance of his preaching. But that gave Abhay more strength to give up the family fast. Abhay was supporting them. He was still associating with them, but he was bent on preaching and they were not making it attractive for him to do so within the family. If there were to be family life for Abhay, then his wife and sons would have to recognize and rejoice in the fact that he was becoming a full-fledged preacher. They would have to understand that his life's concern was to serve his spiritual master's mission. They could not simply ignore his transformation. They could not insist that he was simply an ordinary man. Abhay continued to try to draw his wife in, hoping she would gradually follow him in the preacher's life. But she had not the slightest interest in her husband's preaching. And why should he spend his days worrying about family, chemicals, and money? Let his relatives criticize. But back to Godhead was the real service he could offer to the whole family of mankind. So Srila Prabhupada, Abhay was thinking, this family is just 5 members, but there is a bigger family, Vasudhaika Kutumbakam. So let me offer service to them. Madhavendra Puri, a great spiritual preceptor and predecessor of Lord Chaitanya, had written about the devotees' indifference to worldly criticism. O demigods and forefathers, please excuse me, I am unable to perform any more offerings for your pleasure. Now I have decided to free myself from all reactions to sins simply by remembering anywhere and everywhere the great descendant of Yadu and the great enemy of Kamsa, Lord Krishna. I think that this is sufficient for me, so what is the use of further endeavors? So generally a man is supposed to do 5 types of yagnas, 5 types of offerings. In that he has to please demigods, he has to please Pitrus, he has to please the living entities in general. So here Madhavendra Puri is saying, now I will not do all those things because I have decided to free myself from all the sinful reactions just by remembering Lord Krishna. So if you remember Krishna, if you worship Krishna, you need not do all other kinds of Vedic rituals. It's like watering the root of the tree, and the whole tree gets water. Let the sharp moralist accuse me of being illusion. I do not mind. Experts in Vedic activities may slander me as being misled. Friends and relatives may call me frustrated. My brothers may call me a fool. The wealthy Mammonites may point out me as mad, and the learned philosophers may assert that I am too proud. Still my mind does not budge an inch from the determination to serve the Lord, the lotus feet of Govinda, though I be unable to do it. So it is the case of even the devotees who want to become full-time. Others will tell, why it's so engaged? This is for the old people. Why are you doing now? And family will tell, what will happen to us? So we can see the example of Madhavendra Puri, how he was considering them as, let them think whatever whatever they may think. But that cannot budge an inch from the determination to serve the lotus feet of Govinda. This should be the determination of a devotee. Though I am unable to do it, even though we are not experts in performing Krishna consciousness, but the determination should be there. Krishna says, Satatam kirtayanto mam yatantascha dridavrata namasyantascha mam bhaktya maite te shutapriyam. Who gets Krishna? Who gets Krishna? One who is doing always kirtan, satatan kirtayanto mam. Can you do kirtan all the time? What kirtan? Krishna kirtan or Maya kirtan? Which kirtan you can do? Krishna kirtan you can do all the time? No, we can't do. Most of the time we do Maya kirtan. But Krishna is saying, no, you should do Satatam kirtayanto mam. My kirtan, Krishna kirtan. How you should do that? Yatantascha dhridavrata. With lot of determination. Endeavor with lot of determination. To achieve something in this world, you have to work hard. You can see people working so hard for money. Because money gives everything. Money gives comfort, facilities. But as devotees, we know, we are hearing from long time that money cannot give happiness. So what can give happiness? Only Krishna can give happiness. So the same endeavor we should put for Krishna. Yatantascha dridavrata. With determination. Why should he waste time with petty family problems when he held answers to the problems of India and the world? So Prabhupada has answers to the problems of the world and India. So he's thinking why he should waste his time with petty family problems. What are the petty family problems? Son is not settled. No money to maintain, or insufficient money, or what is about the future, or material desires, want to purchase one more property. It could be anything, or diseases. So Prabhupada is saying, why should I worry about these petty family problems when I have the answers for the problems of the world? What a high consciousness it is, you see. What a high level of consciousness. As an knower of Bhagavad Gita, he felt that his first obligation was to offer solutions to the complex crisis of war, hunger, immorality, crime, all symptoms of godlessness. And if dedicating himself to such work meant that other lesser responsibilities suffered, then there was no loss. In March 1952, Abhay published another issue of Back to Godhead. It was dedicated mostly to a biographical article Abhay had written about Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and his father Srila Bhaktivedanta Thakur. He, Bhaktivedanta Thakur, vehemently protested against the principles of those pseudo-transcendentalists now passed in the name of Lord Chaitanya. He initiated the reformatory movement by literary contributions while he still engaged as a high government officer. During his householder life and serving as a magistrate, he wrote books of various descriptions in Bengali, English, Sanskrit, and etc. to present an actual picture of pure devotional activities to Lord Chaitanya. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj got inspiration from his very childhood all about Srila Thakur Bhaktivinoda's movement. He worked as the private secretary of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and as such Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave him, Srila Saraswati Thakur, the transcendental power of attorney to espouse the cause of Lord Chaitanya. And so after Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur's departure, Srila Saraswati Thakur took up reins of that reformatory movement. So Abhay, in his issue of Back to Godhead in 1952 March, he was describing about Bhaktivinoda Thakur how At that time, there was lot of apasampradayas. Apasampradayas on the name of in the line of Lord Chaitanya, they were doing all those things which Lord Chaitanya has not taught. Whimsically. There are 13 apasampradayas, all those names are also there. So, Bhaktivedanta Thakur, he wrote so many books, literatures, and he condemned these pseudo-transcendentalists who are imitating the very highest devotional ecstasies, Radha, Krishna, Gopis, that they are imitating it in a mundane way. So he wrote articles, he condemned them, and that's how he saved the society from apasampradayas. And he blessed Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur to take this message ahead. It's written here, Prabhupada wrote this word, power of attorney. In the land registration, if a owner has a land and let us say he is somewhere in America or Europe, so and the time had come to sell the land. So he may not come personally, but what he does, he makes a power of attorney. That means he makes one representative and he gives all the powers to him to represent him on his behalf. So that person will come and do the legal things. So that's how Bhaktivinoda Thakur gave power of attorney to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur to take the reins of that reformatory movement. Absorbed in producing his monthly journal, Abhay went about his other activities only superficially. Sometimes he travelled on business or taking the night train from Allahabad to Calcutta, visited his family. When his compartment was not crowded, he would turn on a light while others slept. Riding a night train provided a good opportunity to think or even write. Avyartha kalatvam. This is the symptom of a devotee, that he will not waste his time. See, Prabhupada is traveling in train, and if someone is not there, he is switching on the light and writing the articles, Back to God magazine. But nowadays there is phone. Now even though you have time, but people waste time in mobile. Sometimes he would sleep for a few hours and then sit up again and look out the window to see only night and the reflected lights of the train compartment shining back at him, the windows reflecting his face. You can see how Srila Satswarup Das Goswami Maharaj, he writes everything in detail. You can see how, look out the window to see only night and the reflected lights on the train compartment shining back at him, the windows reflecting his face. It's a very detailed. Halfway through the 12 hours journey, the sky would lighten, turning from grey to light blue, and the first white clouds would appear in the sky. He would see lights in the towns and hear the train horn warning. When the train slowed and stopped at a station, tea vendors would walk alongside the train windows yelling, "Chai, chai, chai." Their loud sing-song din filling the ears with chai, and chai filling the air with its aroma, as hundreds of passengers sipped their morning tea. During his more than 20 years of extensive train travel, see, even before going to America, Prabhupada was traveling so much. Traveling was not a new thing for Prabhupada. 20 years he was traveling, you see. And Abhay had noticed more and more people smoking cigarettes and more women traveling alone. India was becoming westernized and the national leaders were paving the way, the blind leading the blind. They wanted the kingdom of God without God. They wanted a progressive industrialized India without Krishna. From the windows, he could see large fields being left uncultivated and yet people were hungry. Abhay would sometimes read a newspaper and cut out an article that seemed to warrant a reply in Back to Godhead. Or that sparked an idea for an essay. He would deliberate over how to approach people for assistance, whom to approach, and how to start a society of Krishna conscious devotees. People not only in India but all over the world could take to Krishna consciousness. The Chaitanya Bhagavata had predicted that the name of Lord Chaitanya would one day be known in every town and village. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had wanted that. He had sent preachers to England, but they had only gained a protocol to visit with the royalty, stood in line, bowed before the crown, and then come back to India without affecting any change in the Western people. Abhay thought about sending Back to Godhead abroad. His agents, Thakur, Spink and company, had contacts in America and Europe. People read English all over the world, and some of them would surely appreciate the ideas from Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. This was what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati had wanted. Krishna consciousness was not for India alone, it was India's greatest gift, and it was for everyone. So we can see how Srila Prabhupada was at each and every second, he was just meditating how to fulfill the order of his spiritual master. Very intelligently, when some cutout comes in the newspaper, he keeps that and he answers that problem in his Back to Godhead. And he's thinking, he's planning, contemplating on how to approach people, how to make them devotees, how to make them supportive, give them, inspire them to give assistance for his preaching mission, and how to start a society for Krishna consciousness and make devotees. Because he has a strong faith on the teachings of Lord Chaitanya, because Lord Chaitanya predicted that Prithvite Ache Nagaradigram Sarvatra Prachara Haive Moranam. My name will spread all over the world in every town and village. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had blessed him. You preach in the Western world. So when Lord is saying and when the Guru is saying, so that is immense strength to a disciple to follow the instructions. It is said the strength to follow the instruction comes from the instruction only. When a Guru gives instruction to follow that instruction, the strength is there in that instruction only. So it's transcendental, spiritual thing. Abhay, he was also thinking that how to send this Back to Godhead to all the countries. It's exactly like someone planning to expand his business. How he plans to expand his business, he tries to find customers, then tries to show the products, then tries to build up some market. Then when he is little bit established, he tries to send the goods to foreign countries, exports. Then he makes a big samrajyam all over the world. So intelligence is there. That's also intelligence. Even to do business, one needs intelligence. But the same intelligence, everyone has got intelligence. Man, buddhi, ahankar, everyone has. The sukshma sharir, man, mind, buddhi, intelligence, ahankar, false ego. We all have. But we are not actually using that intelligence. One scientist said, one great scientist, we are not even using 1% of our intelligence. So, this intelligence, if we use it properly, we can do amazing things. It's like how Prabhupada, you can see how he's contemplating on how to spread this, send the magazines to all over the world. So it's all. Preaching means, Prabhupada said, ISKCON. To run ISKCON, you need organized intelligence. What do you need? organized intelligence. Like this, you have to plan how to preach, how to expand. So when the mind and the intelligence is in that way of preaching, in the preaching mood, then then there is no space for Maya. Like in many of the letters Prabhupada writes, that you have to keep yourselves always engaged. You have to keep your mind engaged. You may not be having seva, but still you have to find out the means. How can I, memorize more shlokas, or how can I read more? How can I preach more? It's not that always someone will push you. You do this, do this. Already the message, the blessing is there. Guru is saying, preach. Lord is saying, preach. So now you have to take it up. Now you have to take it up. So we all have intelligence, we all have so many resources. So to properly utilize that intelligence for the service of the Lord, then the life is successful. Otherwise the intelligence becomes asuric and it goes in a demoniac way. Uddhared atmanatmanam natmanam avasadayet atmaiva hi atmano bandhur atmaiva ripuratmanaha. One should elevate his consciousness with the help of his mind. One should not degrade his consciousness with his mind, because the mind is the friend and the mind is the enemy. So the life is meant for that. We are all coming from gutter. All our mind, intelligence is full of gutter. So naturally we tend for sense gratification. But uddhared atmanatmanam natmanam avasadayat. Bhagavad Gita, 6th chapter. You have to elevate the mind. So it's an effort. You have to elevate. Just like the earth went into the ocean. Hiranyaksha had put the earth in the ocean. So what? Varahadev came and lifted and saved the earth. So therefore the mind is completely in the three modes of material nature. Now you have to take the step, you have to put efforts to elevate the mind from the dirty consciousness to spiritual consciousness. So how that is done? You have to do all these things. You have to work, you have to do efforts. Put the mind and intelligence in preaching. So that's the best way to engage the mind. It's like how Prabhupada is so nicely, so sincerely is thinking how to preach. He's trying to expand Krishna consciousness. So then one will be saved and one's human life will be successful. Actually, that is the success of life. To engage all our resources. Kayana vacha manasendriyanya buddhyatmana va prakrite sabhava karomi yatyat sakalam parasmai narayana iti samarpayami. So engaging all our resources, bodily, mind, intelligence, all the senses in the service of the Lord. That is the success of life. And that we can see in the life of Prabhupada, how he was doing at each and every moment in his life. He is thinking how to spread the message of Lord Chaitanya, how to follow the instructions of my spiritual master. Hare Krishna. Any questions? Any questions?
I just want to validate my understanding, bro. Prabhupada is trying in so many ways to preach within India, but his direct instruction was ultimately what worked for Prabhupada is when he went to foreign countries and preached in English language. But he was trying in so many ways in India, trying to fulfill his spiritual mission. So, what can we understand here? If we directly follow the instruction, like whatever is mentioned, all these troubles would have been avoided. How to understand this?
He was preaching in India because he was still a grahastha, no? He was not sannyasi. He was trying to do his best to assist Gaudiya Math, to write magazines in English. He was trying his best. But as soon as the Guru came, 2-3 times he came in the dream, take sannyas. Then that is how the journey started. So you need books, before going you need books, so started writing Bhagavatam. Then he was thinking how to go, should I go to Japan, Should I go to America? Prabhupada. So still he was a grahastha, still family, vanaprastha, like that. Yes.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji, I did not get the context. It is written, I wanted to make a statue of Shiva, but ended up making a monkey. So meaning and context, I did not get.
In that, as they try to escape their punishment, the Supreme Soul will cast them deeper into illusion and they will fail miserably. Abhay quoted an appropriate Bengali saying, I was trying to make a statue of Shiva, but I ended up making a monkey. In the sense that one person wanted to make a statue of Shiva, but he don't know how it really to make it. So he ended up making something. It's like first time when you try cooking, let us say, kofta you are making, or gulab jamun, let us say. You might have seen 100 times YouTube video or heard, but when you practically do, as soon as you do and put in the oil, it breaks up. So like that, instead of gulab jamun, it becomes something else. So what Prabhupada is saying here is that people, they try to escape their punishments. They do sinful activities. And think that no, nothing will happen to me. There is no God, there is no nature's laws. I can be happy all the time. Nothing will happen to me. Thinking in that way, they do all kinds of things against the laws of nature. But where they end up in? They end up in hellish life. Lord is saying here, I'll put them deeper into illusion and they will fail miserably. So they are thinking that, okay, if I'll do this, I'll become something. No, but you will become something else. Because no knowledge, how to do, what is the reality, what to do. There is no knowledge. So if you know how to make a statue of Shiva, if you have learned it nicely, you can make it. But he ended up in making something else. So here also, if you know what is the goal of life, then you will achieve that. You will get Krishna Prem, you will go back to Godhead. But if you don't know, thinking that, I am very scholar, getting some material knowledge, what 99% of the people are doing that only. That trying to get material knowledge, trying to solve the problems of this world, thinking that we can be happy one day. But what's the result? No, you have to take birth again, or you cannot actually remove problems from this world. Alfred Nobel made dynamite so that to blast the mines, and with the mines you can create minerals, revenue and all. But people misused it for killing others. So he was very, very sad, very sorry. Why did I invent this? Then he wrote 7 categories. Whoever does extraordinary work in these 7 categories, they will get Nobel Prize. So his intention was something, but in practical it happened something else. So that's what he is giving. A Bengali saying that. So one may think that I am expert in this, I am expert in that. But what that expertness in material expertness cannot give any spiritual perfection. So again, punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. Hare Krishna. Yes. Yeah.
When Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was about to depart from this earth, so his disciples were all fighting with each other that I will acquire this room, I will acquire this room. Then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Maharaj told that instead of making marble temples, I would have spent those money in printing books. It would be the more better way.
So what is the question?
So then we also have this marble temples. We also have these marble temples and all.
You should give best thing to Krishna. Whatever best is there in the world, you should offer to the Lord at your capacity. So Prabhupada made magnificent temples, Juhu, Radharas Bihari, TYP, Vrindavan. So you follow Prabhupada because Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is after Prabhupada, is before Prabhupada. So you listen what Prabhupada said. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur is not saying you should not make temples. He's expressing his sadness that it's better I could have sold the marbles and print some books and distributed. Out of sadness that how his disciples, they were not cooperating. That doesn't mean that, should not make temple. That was not the thing there. You want to add something? Yeah.
Temples were made for preaching, but disciples were fighting like which room I want, which room is mine, which room is yours. They were fighting for the rooms. So in that situation, in that context, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur says.
He was not saying you should not make temples.
Yeah.
Rather, one of the 7 purposes of ISKCON is to make temples. So we should understand that in a positive way. Okay? Srila Prabhupada Lilamrta ki, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki, Nitai Gaur Premanande, Hari Bol.
Sachinandan Hari Prabhu ki.
Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.